Thank you, Mr. Johansson. I'm now going to recognize members for 5 minutes for questions, and I will begin the process. Mr. Johansson, what I'm hearing from you say in your testimony is that you can help, that your members can help in the California Farm Bureau. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's certainly in any sort of disaster or natural disaster, the first responders are often the landowners or neighbors. I mean, historically, there would be smoke on the horizon and everyone would respond. I think right now we're seeing devastating floods in Tulare Lake now reemerging down in Tulare and Kings County. It is farmers, it is ranchers who are responding to shore up those levees. The same happens also in wildfire situations. But most importantly, too, as we grow upon the Good Neighbor Authority, is including those locals, those counties who understand those fire sheds. And perhaps it's burned before, maybe on a smaller scale, but understand how it responded 30 to 40 years ago. So certainly the front lines there can be your locals on the ground and your farmers and ranchers.
Thank you. Mr. Heithaker, in my opening remarks, I said we can respect our environmental laws and we can move quickly at the same time. From your time as a forest supervisor, would you agree that the Forest Service can utilize categorical exclusions to respect environmental laws and move quickly at the same time?
Yes, thank you for the question. The Forest Service has internally made concerted efforts to streamline our processes, and that includes a nationwide monitoring program. An effort started a while ago, environmental analysis and decision-making helped us look at ways to be more efficient internally. As you know, as we've testified on prior, 85% of our NEPA decisions are made through categorical exclusions. That's about 1,400 a year, and that's up from 70% around 10 years ago. All of those categorical exclusions comply with all statutory, regulatory, and policy requirements to implement that work on federal lands.
Do you believe that categorical exclusions undermine bedrock environmental laws?
They do not. They have to comply with all of those environmental laws. They are just another category of NEPA decisions. It's just excluded from analysis due to the fact that they've been determined with CEQ to not have a significant impact to the human environment.
With your first answer, this is something where this committee and subcommittee is going to be watching very closely, is that we are getting the treatments done, because that is something that is very concerning with all the additional money that has been going out, that there are a significant number of treatments that are getting done. One more question, is the 10,000 acre categorical exclusion that is currently only available for the Tahoe Basin an example of where the Forest Service has been able to move quickly while respecting environmental laws?
Yes, I think if we look across our landscapes and how we operate, there's, the size of our decisions is often, in excess of 10,000 acres, 30,000, 40,000, where we find that there are no significant impacts. And having tools to help us do that work at scale faster is a benefit to us.
Mr. Desautels, you commented about how the drafting error in regards to the Good Neighbor Authority, I believe it was in the 2018 Farm Bill, it's my understanding you were forced to abandon a project on the Colville National Forest. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. The Congress expanded the authority for tribes and counties to enter into the agreements, but later in the act, in a section that would have allowed them to expend revenues generated from forest products, tribes and counties were not included in that section, and this bill would address that.
How many acres of fire-prone federal lands do you estimate you would have been able to treat if that would have been in place?
So that project area was roughly 30,000 acres, prior 40,000 acres, but the west quarter of that burned in the 2015 fire season for us. So that's something we're currently working on under a Tribal Forest Protection Act agreement, but we've seen significant fires all around that area since the 2015 fire season.
So if you could have done that treatment if the 2018 law would have allowed that treatment, how many acres would have that helped not succumb to fire?
So it's hard to predict how much we would have stopped it, because 2018 was a significant year, worse fire behavior than I'd seen at any point in my career, but almost certainly it would have reduced the fire effects. And I think it falls into one of those scenarios where we just aren't moving fast enough, that we're seeing projects burn during the planning process because the planning processes are lengthy.
Mr. Johansson, can we address this wildfire crisis without some reforms of NEPA?
Well, I mean, I think,
Can you do it solely with funding? Or is it going to
No.
take some
no,
reforms?
it does take reforms. I mean, in California, we enjoyed a $100 billion surplus in our state budget. It's easy to throw money at a project, and we've thrown a lot of money at trying to address this in California. But as I've said before, just throwing money at a problem such as wildfire and forest thinning doesn't work unless you're actually doing the project and the project gets finished. It has to be expedited. We see, even locally, I mean, heard if you're doing a mechanical thinning project, it could take up to 3 years to get approval in the forest, 4 years if it's a control burn, but theoretically, those are averages. We hear stories, and I get phone calls of frustrations from people in Murphy's, California, and Calaveras County who are on their 7th and 8th year. So the expedited process has to go into effect in terms of how we rely on those forest plans that our foresters put together. And they're thorough and extensive and take a very long time. That should ultimately be what drives and moves forward projects, and not just
Yeah, thank you very much. My time has expired, and I'd like to recognize the ranking